स्लीपी क्लासेस के सारे सब्जेक्ट
मुझे पता चला था कि स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
मेरा स्लीपी के साथ इंटरेक्शन हुआ
स्लीपी क्लासेस
स्लीपी क्लासेस
आई कंप्लीटली रिलाइड ऑन योर चैनल
स्लीपी की वीडियोस भी देखी है।
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes is one of those मतलब institutions जहाँ पे सभी टीचर अच्छे हैं.
Hello everyone, I am Ananya. I have secured All India Rank 3 in UPSC Civil Services Examination 2023. This was my first attempt at the examination. I have already made 2 videos as part of this series. One was a detailed strategy of UPSC Civil Services Examination and the other was about my anthropology strategy. And in this third video, I would like to highlight a bit about answer writing strategy for mains in general. So coming to answer writing strategy for mains, I would like to highlight the sequence in which I progressed while writing an answer. So firstly, I focused on developing the structure of an answer. Usually we tend to see that we focus on the time aspect when we are writing an answer for the first time, that we have to complete an answer in 7 minutes or so, or probably 10 minutes or so. But that, I believe, is a wrong strategy. The first thing that we have to check while we are attempting an answer is not even the content, not the time in which we are writing the answer, but the structure is something that becomes extremely important. So when you're seeing a question, see to it if you are able to identify the subparts that have been asked in the question, the demand that has been asked in the question, and try to formulate a structure to the question asked. I think this becomes extremely crucial, and this might take you maybe somewhere between 15 to 20 days, but once this is done, the rest parts becomes extremely easy. So try to understand the demand of the question, try to identify the subparts that have been asked in the question, and try to formulate a decent strategy, a decent structure for the question asked. And next comes the value addition or the content part. The basic content you will find it from many resources, that is the standard books, the reference books, the mains notes that you have made. But value addition also becomes extremely important for mains in order to substantiate your answer. And for that to happen, I believe it is extremely important for you to collect some kinds of facts, some kinds of statistics, some kinds of quotes, some kinds of other unique examples that you might find in newspapers or from toppers notes or from topper copies. So adding these and collecting them in place and constantly revising them will help you in incorporating these elements into your answer seamlessly. I think this part, this value addition part, is the next important part of your answer writing after you address the demand and structure of the answer. And later comes the time aspect, that is how to complete your answer in a 7-minute span or a 10-minute span, or how to complete your whole paper in 3 hours. And for this, I believe what is important is revisions. The more number of revisions you do, the subject matter gets ingrained in your brain and you will be able to execute whatever has been asked in the question in a limited span of time. And apart from that, it becomes extremely important for you to practice full length tests. The more number of full length tests you practice, you will identify the nitty-gritties of how to complete the paper in 3 hours span of time. That is, whether you have to do the 15 markers first, whether you have to do the 10 markers first, in what sequence you have to attempt the questions. All these things will be made, will become evident for you, and then you will be able to complete the paper in limited 3 hour span of time. So for this, I would only like to tell that for the time aspect, there is no shortcut but to practice as many papers as possible and also to revise as many times as possible, because only with revision will you be able to incorporate whatever is there in the notes in your answers. So this is sequence of answer writing that I wanted to highlight, because I've seen aspirants confused basically, that is, they focus on the time aspect first or they focus on the content aspect first rather than focusing on the structure or the demand of the aspect, but it is the other way around. Once you focus on the structure and add a bit of content and value addition to your answer, it becomes extremely easy for you to go about the process. So apart from that, another sort of thing that I want to highlight about answer writing is some elements that I found that might have helped me in scoring good in this year's GS papers. I've scored a total of 464 marks if I'm not wrong, and this I would tell what might have worked for me. So first I would say is writing more number of points. I've seen some of the aspirants writing very good points but limiting their number of points to 3 or 4 per subpart. I think that is something that might cost you a bit of marks here and there. If you are addressing or incorporating more number of points, say 6 or 7 subpoints for each subpart that has been asked, I think it will help you in fetching that additional half or 1 mark that will probably add a lot to your total score. So that is something that I want to highlight, that is to make your answers more diversified by adding more number of points. And apart from adding more number of points, I would also like to highlight diversification. Sometimes you usually write the same number of same point in different ways, in 3 or 4 ways when we are adding the points, but that is not how it works. You have to identify different dimensions and incorporate all the dimensions in your answer. For instance, when a question is asked about in GS2, you have to try to identify all kinds of aspects to it. For instance, there is a question in international relations. They are asking you about relation between two countries. In that, you have to identify what are all the dimensions you have to cover. That is the political dimension, the economic dimension, as well as you have to identify the defense relations that are there between those countries. You also have to identify the people to people contacts that are there between those countries. You have to identify what are the ways in which they are cooperating on multilateral platforms. So these are some 5 to 6 dimensions that you have to identify, and you have to write the answers. And how to identify these dimensions becomes extremely important. You cannot generate dimensions in a limited span of time in the examination conditions itself. For that, I believe it is extremely important for you to have frameworks beforehand. What do I mean by frameworks? For instance, there are different subjects in mains. For instance, in GS1, there is history, there is geography, there is society. So you have to identify frameworks. By frameworks, I mean, how do you write a particular answer in society? How do you write a particular answer in polity? How do you identify, write a particular answer in international relations? And for this exercise, what has helped me most is Sonali Dev's ma'am's frameworks and notes that have been uploaded by her on her blog. Please refer to them. You will understand how to approach each subject in each paper of the general studies paper, and you will understand what are the frameworks that you have to devise for addressing each part of the paper. So that becomes extremely important for you to understand the question, make a framework, add more number of points, diversify your answer, and this will give a sense of holisticity to your answer, I would say.
स्लीपी क्लासेस के सारे सब्जेक्ट
मुझे पता चला था कि स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस स्लीपी क्लासेस
मेरा स्लीपी के साथ इंटरेक्शन हुआ
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
sleepy classes.
I completely relied on your channel.
सिर्फ स्लीपी की वीडियोस भी देखी हैं।
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
Sleepy classes is one of those मतलब institutions जहाँ पे सभी टीचर अच्छे हैं.
And apart from that, I would also like to emphasize upon what are the key components in each subject. For instance, if your answer in polity is devoid of what can be called as constitutional articles or Supreme Court judgments, I don't think the examiner will be compelled to give more marks to you. The same goes with other subjects. For instance, in geography, you have to kind of incorporate some kind of maps in your answers to make it more geography kind of answer. And internal security comes with again maps, which will help you, which will help the examiner in knowing that okay, she has an idea about what the internal security challenge there is. So these are the kind of things that you have identified for each subject in each paper, and then that will help you in understanding and addressing the questions holistically. And apart from that, I would also like to highlight about the introductions and conclusions. Regarding introductions and conclusions, I believe it is extremely important for you to add value addition to your introductions and conclusions and not keep them like generic. And for that, for introductions, you can use something like a fact, something like a stat, something like a quote given by important statesman, something like a reference to a book that you have studied. All these kinds of things will help you in understanding or giving that contextuality to your answer while you are writing the answer. And coming to the conclusions, I think it becomes extremely important for you to be optimistic. Optimistic is one thing, and second thing is you can also display some sort of administrative skills at that and suggest way forward. I think suggesting way forward will give that holisticity to the answer even if it is not asked in the question. This is something that I have done this year, and I think that might have helped me. There were a number of questions in this year's mains examinations that were focusing only on the problem, that have not asked about the solutions that have to be proposed to tackle that challenge. But I kind of put myself in the shoes of an administrator and proposed some kind of solutions to the questions that has been asked, and I think that has helped me in gaining more marks, because ultimately you have to propose solutions when the problem is asked. You cannot just leave the question as it is. So in conclusions, you can add solutions, or you can also end your conclusions with something like sustainable development goals, Supreme Court judgments, or again quotes. These will be extremely helpful for you in nicely concluding your answers. So these are some of the elements that I wanted to highlight as part of the answer writing things. And also I want to highlight another one important aspect that I felt might have helped me, that is making your answers more organic. For instance, I have read a lot number of books and material for mains, and I've kind of understood the subject matter, but when I was writing my answers, I kind of made them more organic, and I did not made them more textual, in the sense that I used the terms that were more like, organic, that were not very bookish in that sense, and also I proposed solutions that were practical and not solutions that were that were directly borrowed from a think tank or something like that. So this is something that is also extremely crucial in making your answers more relatable and more administrative in that sense. So that is something I think that has also helped me. And also, while you are proposing solutions, please ensure that you are not generic but very specific. For instance, don't just say that use technology to solve the problem. That is not how it works. You tell how you are using the technology or something like that. So this also becomes extremely important. So these are some of the tips that are useful for all the papers in general. Apart from that, there is one more paper, that is General Studies paper 4, which is nothing but ethics, which kind of require maybe a different kind of answer writing strategy, not completely different but maybe a little. So I would like to highlight some of the things that might have worked for me in ethics. Firstly, it is extremely important for you to understand the ethical terms in a very organic manner, so that when you are writing the definitions or some sort of thing, you are not quoting textual definitions, but you are quoting definitions that are very relatable. So that is one extremely important thing. And second thing is, for you to differentiate your answers from general studies kinds of answers, it becomes extremely important for you to quote ethical terms, whether it is courage, whether it is wisdom, whether it is empathy, whether it is emotional intelligence, whether it is social influence, whether it is social capital. These are all the terms that they are looking for in an ethics answer. So the more number of the more number of terms you use, the better it seems like an ethics answer. And apart from that, examples become extremely important. Collect as many examples as possible from your personal life, from newspapers, from professionals' lives, anything, and substantiate your each point with an example, because only when you substantiate with each point with an example, the examiner will understand what you are trying to convey. This is the another thing. And fourth thing is, again, please write more number of points. Please don't restrict your answer to 3 or 4 points and elaborate them. Rather, end your answers in a single one line or two, but address more number of points. That is extremely important. And apart from that, I think coming to case studies, what I believe is that in case studies, it is extremely important to be on point. For instance, I have seen papers where the question is about ethical issues involved or ethical dilemmas involved, and people tend to write a lot about stakeholders even if it is not asked, a lot about context of the case study even if it is not asked, and tend to write only 3 or 4 ethical dilemmas. But that is not how it works. You have to write kind of 6 to 7 ethical dilemmas, but because that is what that has been asked in the paper. So this is something that is extremely important. And in your case studies, it becomes extremely important for you to use your general studies 1, 2, 3 knowledge also. For instance, when you're proposing solutions to a problem, whether it is in short-term solutions, medium-term solutions, or long-term solutions, instead of making it very generic, use your general studies knowledge. For instance, when you're dealing with case study related to consumer protection, make sure that you're using the provisions that are there in the Consumer Protection Act that you have studied in GS2 in your ethics case studies, so that it becomes more specific. So this is something I think that might have also worked for me in case studies. So this has been a broad strategy of mine for answer writing, that is, make your answers more organic, write more number of points, address all the subparts, and provide holisticity to your answer by kind of adding administrative dimension to it, that is proposing solutions, making them more specific, making them more practical, and having catchy introductions and conclusions is something that might also help you. So and for ethics also, I've highlighted some other important portions that might be little different from GS 1, 2, 3. So these are all the things that I felt were what have guided me in my answer writing for mains. So yes, I would like to conclude the video over here, and these are all the 3 videos that I've addressed. One is the detailed strategy for CSE, the second is the anthropology strategy, and third is the answer writing strategy. And I would like to conclude by saying a big thank you to Delhi Knowledge Track for giving me an opportunity to interact with you all and to tell my strategy to you all. Thank you.